Hello, Marco. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Fine. Here in Umeå at House of Metal Festival.
Yeah, and apparently I heard that we're the band that played here the most times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said that because I didn't know, but they said that on the presentation of the band that apparently we are the band that's been here most times.
Okay, so you have probably enjoyed yourselves being here.
Yeah, it's a really, really good and professional festival.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. So today we are going to talk a little bit about yourself.
Oh no. Okay.
How does it sound?
Yeah, we can try anyway.
So the first question actually goes that do you remember when you heard metal or rock music for the first time in your life?
I can actually say that I found in my parents, like when you're a young kid, you going through all kinds of drawers and trying to find stuff. You just roam around and try to find stuff. And I found a cassette with Hurricanes.
Okay.
That was the first introduction to rock and roll that I had. And then after that, I'd say, which was before? Was that, do you remember? You're probably too young to remember, but there was a big TV show that they sent from a concert had like Def Leppard. They had all these bands, and it was televised in Sweden, like all night.
Okay.
And that's probably before when I forced my granddad to listen to Iron Maiden for the first time. Yeah. So I was sitting there, I was like 11, 10 maybe.
Okay.
And I saw all these bands and I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And then back in 82 or 83, I believe it was, when Iron Maiden Peace of Mind came out, I got that as a Christmas gift from my parents. And I got a stud belt, and I got a shirt that said, the Iron Maiden made in Japan. And I forced my granddad to listen to Iron Maiden. And he was suffering, but as the loving grandfather he was just sitting there nodding along. Yeah, this is great. But yeah, Hurricanes was probably my first experience with hard music. And that also turned me on to, because I fell in love with the energy of the music and the danger. There was some kind of element of danger in there. So I fell in love with that, and also that brought along punk rock as well, which I wasn't like really into metal. I really enjoyed heavy metal and metal, but punk rock became the dominant thing. Okay. Because their ideas, and from what I understood back then, was that their ideas aligned with my ideas of being a young boy. And so I had actually my first punk rock band in 1984.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was the first ever band that you had?
Yeah, that was the first ever band. And I was supposed to be the singer, but they thought that I sounded like shit, so I had to play the drums.
Okay.
And I played the drums for quite some time. Not just in punk bands, but in metal bands and all kinds of stuff. But then back in the late 80s, we had a rehearsal room. Because in Sweden, you had like, the government funded, if you wanted to start a band or something, there was something called Studiefrämjandet, which was, you start like a educational circle kind of thing. And they had rehearsal rooms, they had everything. So if you didn't have any instruments, you could just talk to them and they would write you not a check, but like a piece of paper that you could go to the music store and they would pay for it.
Okay.
But then you have to repay by hours of like studying and playing and blah, blah, blah. So that's why a lot of Swedish bands from that era became what they became, because the government funded thing.
Okay.
So yeah, punk rock and then hard music. Punk rock and hardcore is still closer to me than metal sometimes.
So how did you pick up the microphone, and were your first sort of like idols coming from that like punk rock hardcore scene? Or?
The punk rock hardcore scene was, of course, Sex Pistols and blah, 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 the British. But then I got into the American stuff. Dead Kennedys and Husker Du and Black Flag and all that. But I didn't have any influences at the beginning because late 80s when I was playing the drums, we had a rehearsal room in an old bomb shelter underneath the school, which was also government funded. That was one of those rehearsal rooms that they had. We had a bar there and stuff, and I was like 15, 16, I believe. Every Friday, Saturday, we built a stage. So every Friday and Saturday, we put bands together from all the members from that rehearsal room and just made up a band and did some cover songs and stuff. So we did AC/DC and stuff. And that's when I tried to sing for the first time. And I just fell in love with it. It started there.
Was it some specific songs that you made
we did AC/DC a lot.
Okay, so that was...
Yeah. And then we had some professional, not like professional, but bands that gotten a bit further than us came down. We invited them to come down, and looking at them and how they like evolved from where we were, and I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. This is what I want to do. So that's when I quit the drums. I went into the military, and in the military, that's when I quit the drums, and then I started to scream instead.
Yeah, I was next gonna ask that how did the screaming came to the picture?
It actually came from listening to Testament, and I just fell in love with Testament and Chuck Billy.
Okay.
So Chuck Billy is like the main influence of mine from back then. And then to back in 1999 with The Haunted, being specifically picked up by Testament to do our first US tour as support for Testament. And getting to know these guys and befriend them. They say don't meet your idols, but I'm really glad.
No, they are good guys.
They're really good guys. Yeah. Really good guys. And they took care of us because that was our first like major tour, and we were really young. And they took care of us and showed us the ropes. Yeah.
So in terms of screaming, were you first trying to like emulate what Chuck Billy was doing and then figuring out your own way to do things? Or do you feel that you sort of immediately jumped into doing your own stuff? Or?
No. I've always been good at imitating. So that's when we did like AC/DC covers and stuff. I was really good at imitating Bon Scott. Also Chuck Billy but after a while you get to know your limitations as well. And the first time I've ever heard anyone say was when we were recording this album. And Björn Strid, who was producing my vocals on this album, he said, dude, you have a note in your voice. You have like, you don't just scream. There is something beneath. And I didn't know because I never reflected over it because I don't use techniques. I just yell. At the top of my fucking lungs.
Yeah.
But when you're doing live stuff, okay, you cheat because you need to keep it working. Mm-hmm. But that was the first time that, dude, you have like a tone in your voice. There's something in the back that is like helping you do all kinds of different pitches and stuff. So I was never aware of this, but yeah.
So, like you said, you have been screaming your lungs out. So, were you losing your voice all the time in the beginning? Or?
In the beginning, yes. Every other rehearsal, I couldn't even talk after.
Okay.
But then I went to like a vocal coach just to learn how to breathe. When you get the breathing down, it gets a lot easier. That's when you start like knowing where your limits are. I was just screaming like you normally do at a football match or something.
Yeah. And that will fuck up your voice.
Yeah, that will. But if you do it with like your gut support, and it helps you. And that's what I did. I learned how to breathe, and all of a sudden it was a lot easier. And nowadays I have this thing that I call the armored voice, because I don't do warm-ups. Never did, never have been. I just scream until I'm satisfied with the raspiness.
Okay.
So I don't do warm-ups, I don't do anything. I just scream until... If you're backstage today, you're probably going to hear it as well. Sometimes I scream right before I get up on stage, and you can hear that as well. I do that screaming thing, and when you get like 3 shows in on a tour, I develop what I call the armored voice. After that, I can do whatever I want because it's like an on and off switch. But I've never like studied techniques or I couldn't even tell you how I'm doing it. I'm just doing it.
So, like you said, Testament was the first band that got you basically out on a bigger tour.
Yeah.
So what kind of experience it was as a vocalist to do like show after show after show? Obviously you had some experience behind you already, but how was it?
I learned a lot from them on how to live on tour, because I had this illusion that it's just going to be a big party, that's it. And I learned the hard way, not on that tour, but I got lucky on that tour, I believe, because the lifestyle that we had as opposed to theirs, because they were very disciplined and they were doing warm-ups and stuff, and I was at some point actually making fun of it, because being young, arrogant asshole. Then we did a Sweden tour, the first close-up tour that was ever put together, and I lost my voice 3 shows in, from just being an asshole and drinking and staying up, and that was a horrible, horrible feeling, and a wake-up call also. All of a sudden, you discover that you're not invincible.
Yeah.
We did the rest of the tour with a really good sound engineer, making it sound like I was really screaming, but I wasn't. So after that, you really had to think about what you did. So after that, I started taking care of my voice, and that's where the armored voice comes in. That when I learned my limits and everything. So yeah, nowadays I take it a lot easier. Of course, I'm old now, but the parties is not there anymore at all. When you get off stage, you don't see me at any after parties or anything. I need to get my sleep, and I need to really rest after a show. So
you said that you don't have any kind of warm-ups, but has those like routines changed during the years, from the early years up until now?
Yeah, of course they do, because they're kind of a warm-up, but I guess they're like a rough warm-up, but they're my assurance. I guess they don't really warm up your voice, I believe, but they get me into character and make me feel confident.
Yeah, but that's the main thing, because we've done 100 of these, and I feel every vocalist is like different when it comes to like warming up.
Yeah, I don't do all these la 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 things.
Yeah, scales.
But there was this video with a girl called Melissa, and she had the CD Zen of Screaming.
Yeah, Melissa Cross.
Yeah, and I looked at it a few times, and once I had a really, really bad cold, not on tour or anything, but I had a really bad cold, and I did her warm-ups once, and it actually worked.
Okay.
So I took the screaming part of it. I didn't do all the other stuff. I have the breathing, but then I did the other stuff. So I guess when I scream the way I do until I'm satisfied is from there as well. So yeah, I guess I need the confidence, because the voice is already there. But I need the confidence, and that's why I do the screaming things. I really probably don't have to do them, but I do them. And yeah, once I hear that it's still there,
then you're okay to go.
Yeah, and I go.
Are there like some specific foods or drinks that you try to avoid before the show, that you have felt that they don't really help you and do harm with the screaming stuff, or something that you want to take that you feel that they help you?
I know a lot of people drink tea and they do all kinds of stuff, but the only thing that I really don't do before a show, except drink too much, but is I don't eat before a show. When we're on tour and stuff, I stop eating at lunchtime. Otherwise, I will most definitely throw up, because I use so much gut support. We tried once, me and Jonas. We were on tour in the US, and we found a McDonald's that had like was it 99 cents for a cheeseburger? And we went there and we ate like crazy. And that was like 2 hours before a show, and we both threw up, because Jonas does backing vocals. So that's when I learned that, okay, no eating before a show. So that's the only thing I probably don't do. I do a few Jack and Cokes just because I want to get into character. And that's also a thing. I'm not fond of people. That's why I put on a uniform and I get into character. That helps me, because if I was to be up on stage without my uniform and not the Jack and Cokes, or I would be, as we say in Sweden, on a hockey rink with football shoes on.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you need that for the confidence.
Yeah, but that's been for like almost 30 years, the same recipe. Because Jonas, he doesn't have stage clothes. But I need to have them. I need to get into character.
So you've been in many bands during your career, like for example, like Face Down and The Resistance and The Haunted, and released a lot of albums. But
Yeah.
are there like some specific albums that you could pinpoint from your discography where you have felt that you've taken big step forward as a vocalist?
Yeah, I would say in Face Down, I would say The Will to Power. That album was recorded after my first stint in The Haunted, where I learned a lot about myself, as I said. So that was like a big leap from the previous Face Down albums, because we tried to re-record some old songs with Face Down, and I couldn't do them anymore because my vocal style back then was so different.
Yeah.
So I say The Will to Power, and then when I got into The Resistance, we were doing a lot more death metal vocals. Also a thing that I've never tried before, like the really dark. The Will to Power and Scars probably were those two albums that really got me thinking, that I've developed.
What about The Haunted?
The Haunted, everybody says that the new album is like a new Marco vocals kind of thing. But the funny thing is that I did nothing different from the previous albums.
I guess you still evolve as a vocalist from like album to album.
Yeah. But still, from let's say Strength in Numbers and Exit Wounds,
Yeah.
to this album, where everybody says that, oh, it's a completely different vocals. And I say I didn't do anything different from these vocals at all, except for have a different vocal producer. And now I had Björn, even though Jocke Skog is a fantastic producer, but Björn didn't let me get away with stuff, which probably Jocke would have let me get away with. Björn didn't let me get away with it. And also I think that when I've been thinking about this question, that people say that, yeah, your vocals are really, really different. And I've been thinking about why it sounds different. And then the only conclusion I come to is that I think that I probably subconsciously tried to impress him. Because in my mind, I didn't do anything different. But probably somewhere in the back of my mind, I tried to impress him because he's a very, very good singer.
Yeah, he is.
I tried to impress him.
And you were sort of pushing yourself to the limits with
Yeah,
that.
and also I didn't want to fail in front of my friend, and who is also a fantastic vocalist. And I didn't want to fail or sound bad or anything. So I think that I subconsciously tried to impress him.
So what were your parents' reactions when they heard first time you screaming your lungs out?
They've been really, really supportive because, Finnish parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, they collect everything you do and blah, 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 blah. But still, to this day, my dad is always like, "Yeah, I met a guy who's really, really into metal and stuff, and he knows you. He knows who you are." And it's really big to them still. But they are really proud, and they support me, and they always supported me. My dad bought me like drumsticks and stuff when I was playing drums, and the screaming thing, they don't get it, but they still support it. And so does the rest of my family. My wife, she doesn't even listen to metal, but she supports it, and she comes out every once when she has time to.
So I guess this is a question that has been asked from other vocalists, but any kinds of advice that you would like to give to some young vocalist who is just about to start their journey? Anything that comes into your mind?
I'd say learn to breathe. That was the key for me. Learn to breathe, because everybody knows how to yell. Like James Hetfield said, he's not singing, he's yelling in key. So everybody knows how to yell. When once you get the breathing down, it gets a lot easier. But nowadays, vocalists, there's a new technique that I haven't really gotten into, but it makes most of them sound the same. It's the I don't know. I can't even do it. But get the breathing down and just explore. Try all kinds of genres, not just metal, because once you discover your limits, it gets a lot easier. When I got back into the Haunted and we had to do like Peter Dolving stuff, and it's not that I don't know how to sing, it's just that I don't want to. But it's a good learning curve for me as well, and keep my singing like alive as well. So that's really nice to do Peter Dolving songs, because I really admire him as a singer. When I was listening to like Mary Beast Jane and stuff, they were one of my favorite bands. So yeah, I'd say that get your breathing down and try different things, not just screaming. Try to sing and just get the idea of melodies in your head and the ideas of rhythms in your head. And then after that, it's smooth sailing, I'd say.
Thanks a lot for taking the time to do this.